Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Stella Herself podcast. As always, thank you so much for tuning in this week. Thank you to everyone who shared that they were listening last week, even if you didn't share and you just listened. Thank you to everyone who, interacts with the podcast, whether that's commenting on a video or DMing me your thoughts on anything, or, we chat about stuff in the Discord group, links down below. But it really means a lot to me, and I just love having this community where I can share my ideas and things that I've been learning about, thinking about, etc. And to get that reflected back is so amazing. So shout out to y'all. I'm really excited for this week's episode because I feel like we have a lot to talk about, and let's just dive into it. So how has everyone's week been? Bro, this daylight savings was Sunday, if you're in the US, besides Arizona, I think. And honestly, I feel like daylight savings is kind of dumb because now, it was starting to get light out at 5:30 a.m., which was great for me. But then it's it's later now at night, or it's lighter later, but I kind of missed the morning routine of it. But the days are finally getting longer, even if you haven't had daylight savings yet in your country. The days are getting longer, and I just love this time of year. It's spring officially this weekend. It's the start of the new astrological calendar, the new astrological year. So this is really I feel like when New Year's starts, spring. And just getting out of winter, and it's crazy. It's always the beginning of the year, I feel, where winter really is just the worst time, because at the end of the year, we have all these holidays, and it's just slowly we're oh, at least for me, it's oh, we're just getting more cozy, we're getting in the holiday spirit, we're wrapping up the year, oh my god. But then January through March is just so ew, because it's still dark out, and it's just ugh. So I'm just very relieved and excited. I don't know. I feel like this Pisces season was just a lot, not in a terrible way, but just I feel like it was definitely emotional for me. And again, not in a bad way, but there was definitely high highs and very low lows. It was good in a lot of ways, but it also was I had some very what the fuck moments. So let me know how your Pisces season is. It's Aries season on Sunday. So shout out to all my Aries queens. As a Leo, I'm very excited for this fire sign season. I just feel like it's going to be such a good, refreshing feel, the start of the new astrological calendar. So we're going to talk about that as well. But just know, if you have been feeling very gross and stuck and just ew, things are finally officially changing. We're experiencing the change currently. Even if you don't feel it within yourself yet, things are changing around us. They're going to affect us, and we're going to feel the difference. So I'm just so fucking glad. Beverage check. I had to go to CVS. Also, y'all, I'm going to try to vlog this week. I am going to vlog this week. You know what? Because y'all deserve a weekly vlog. So you're going to hear me talk about this in the vlog, but I went to CVS this morning to get some sunscreen because I was out, and because it's been getting nicer out, I want to lay my ass out on the roof. So I needed more sunscreen for sure. I was using I love them, but the Michelle, I love the Michelle face sunscreen, but their body sunscreen, bro, it's just so, it's zinc based, which is good, but it's just so white cast, and the only one I had left was the lotion. So I'm used to spray sunscreens, they're just so much more easy, convenient, and you can reach your back and stuff. I have not had to rub in sunscreen on my body in so long, and this was the only one I had left, and it was just a struggle. And especially what if there's other people on the roof and I'm rubbing myself down? It's just not a good look for me. So definitely needed to go get that. And then I also decided to get a Dunkin'. She's a decaf oat milk latte with, I think it's just one caramel swirl. It's not the best today, and I did, when I got home, add a shot of just regular espresso, and it did help a lot. It's just very thick and too sweet. Not the worst ever, but it's just not it's not the best one. I got this exact order. I don't even know. It might have even been in January, but it was so good. They got that milk to espresso ratio perfect. It wasn't too sweet. It was just perfect. But that's just like how it goes with Dunkin', you know, like it's a gamble. Sometimes people in other countries will be like, oh, I wish I had Dunkin'. Like, it feels like I'm missing out. You're not. Like, you're not. It's just, it's convenient, especially on the East Coast. There's like a lot more Dunkins than, I mean, we have some here, but I know it's a lot more common on the East Coast. It's just not, it's either really good or it's like not, but you're not missing out. Like, you're not. And I like their app because they'll have, and that's why I go to Starbucks so much too. It's just like the app and the rewards, and you can just get free drinks. It's like really easy. The convenience, you know. But yeah, you're not missing out, bro. There's this coffee place I really want to try, but now it's like, bro, I don't even fuck with caffeine like that. So sometimes it's just like, okay, like, what am I doing this for? Which has low-key been nice because now it's like I'm more likely to try. Like in the past, you know, when coffee shops will have like, oh, this is our like turmeric latte, like blah, blah, blah. And before I would just, it's like their specialty like item, but it's like not a caffeine or it's just like not a coffee based drink. Like I would never get shit like that before because I just always wanted the caffeine. But now it's like I've been branching out. I got this like turmeric boba the other day from Earth. It was like, okay. I prefer the green tea one. But, yeah, so it's been kind of nice. Like yesterday I had no caffeine at all and I was completely fine. So moving up in the world. What else was I gonna say? So let me know your beverages down below. We also have my classic water. This is your sign to go wash your water bottle that you always use. Damn, I'm kind of thirsty. But yeah, definitely do that. I try to wash mine I do wash mine at least once a week. I try to do it more than that, but sometimes it's just like, I don't know. It always feels like such a hassle. And it's like, bro, it's so easy to clean because it's not really like dirty, you know? Like it's not like you're cleaning grease and oil off of it. Like it's so easy to clean, but it's just like, I'm always like, ew, I'll just do that later. And it's like, bro, it takes 2 seconds. You don't want that bacteria, whatever. So let me know your beverages down below. But I feel like there was something else I wanted to say before we get started. I guess, I don't know if I said this last time, but if y'all don't listen to Slouching, and I posted this on my story, but so it's like a radio show, like it's like a mix every Sunday on Apple Music. I'm sure a lot of you know of it already, but I've been like really heavy on that recently. Like that's all I want to listen to. The Valentine's Day one, episode 538, is like the best shit I've ever heard, and especially just with it being spring, and it's just like the days have been feeling nicer. Even if, you know, the weather is not necessarily nice where you are now, at least it's staying lighter longer out, you know, just that getting into that spring feel and just like, ooh, it's like the best mix for like this time. And it was, you know, it's the Valentine's Day mix, so it's a lot of just like songs about love, and like it's a lot of reggae, and it's just like the best. Oh my god, it's just so good. I've literally listened to it almost like every day. I think I found it kind of late. Like I definitely didn't listen to this one when it came out, but if you haven't listened to that, bitch, that's my like official, that's my important announcement. Listen to that, because starting my day off with that, like that's all I've been listening to, and it's just, I'm just so glad. Anyway, so just like very excited about that. One of the main topics I wanted to talk about today is something that I've definitely talked about before and like referred to, but I wanted to do like a deep dive on it today because I posted something on my story related to this, and I just know so many of us can relate, and it's just something I can never like learn about enough, I guess, or read about enough, or like think about enough, because it's just so ingrained in most of us. And that is the good girl complex. So originally I had reposted something from this therapist, like a little infographic. Let me find it. I believe it was from Robin Clark. It's loading. I thought I saved it. I guess I didn't. I think I screenshotted it maybe, but yeah, love Robin Clark. I thought she was a therapist. I thought she was a therapist. Not me being shocked. You know, it says coach, so whatever. But she has really good infographics and just like very relatable stuff about, you know, just a lot of the things that we go through specifically as like women. But I would recommend following. That's when this is the stuff I'm talking about when I say like you really can curate your own Instagram experience. Like, oh my God, I just feel so bad about my life every time I go on Instagram. It's like, are you following like the therapists, babe, or following the life coaches with like good advice? Because I have a great experience when I go on IG. Sometimes a dumbass will piss me off, but it's like anyway, so I will link her account down below, but I had reposted this and someone had asked me to talk about it in a podcast. So I'm just going to read over this and we're going to discuss. So this is signs that you're stuck in good girl. The security you get from being liked is so essential that you'll self-abandon to keep folks happy with you. You don't often know what you really want or need. You just want people to be pleased with you. Being agreeable, nice, pleasing, cute, and focused on other people is your default social setting. Very me. Like, oh my God, that bitch. Setting boundaries feels like you're cutting off a part of yourself, not doing something self-affirming. Conflict or folks being mad at you feels like the ground is falling out from under your feet. You assert yourself, but only to the point that everyone still feels comfortable with you. Raise your fucking hand if you feel personally attacked by this post, because I know I do. And like, this has just always been such a struggle for me. Like, I'm sure if you've met me, like, I feel like anyone who meets me, like, I remember getting, you know, reports in class growing up. Like, this has just always been my life. Like, oh, you're so nice. You're so agreeable. You're just so easy to be around. And like, that can be a good thing in a lot of ways. But, you know, when you're nice and like agreeable to those around you at the expense of your own comfort or your own boundaries or just your own self, you know, that's a fucking problem. And it's just so ingrained in so many women to default to this. You know, we're supposed to be like cute and like nice, and we're supposed to put others first, and like, oh, I don't want to cause conflict. I don't want to be a bitch. You know, I don't want to be bossy. I don't want to be what about their feelings? And again, like, it's not a bad thing to think of other people's feelings or to like not want to hurt someone, but it gets to be a problem when that's just always what you're doing and you're not sticking up for yourself because, oh, what will they think? I don't want to hurt them. I don't want to cause conflict. Conflict makes me uncomfortable, etc. And like, I just want y'all to know, I'm sharing this and whatnot. I love every sound. I have come a long way in this journey, this like people pleasing journey, this like good girl journey, whatever. But I'm not like, oh yeah, I assert myself so perfectly in every situation and I'm never scared of conflict now. No, like, it's still definitely a struggle for me. I've come a long way. I'm a lot better at it than I used to be even just a few years ago, but it's not like I'm like perfect. So I'm sharing this to like, you know, I know a lot of us deal with this, so we're all on this together, bitch. Like, let's be in our self-love bags. Let's be in our let's cause conflict bags, you know? Like, it's like a process. So just so y'all know, like, I'm not like, this is like, yeah, I've learned a lot. Yeah, I can do a lot better now, but like, anyway. So for me, what really stuck out from this post was like, you often don't know what you really want or need. You just want people to be pleased with you. I have this specific memory of like, I was with this guy. I think this was when I like first moved to LA, and he was like, oh, like, where do you want to eat or something? And I was like, oh, I don't care. Like, and I just remember specifically saying something like, I just like don't really like making decisions. Like, I'd rather someone else choose. And I just remember being so uncomfortable with like having to make the decision. And I know, like, that's like a classic example, like, oh, girls don't know what they want to eat. But it was just like more than that, you know, at the time, like that moment. Like, there's probably been other times where I didn't know what I wanted to eat, but I literally just like didn't know. Like, that was just a specific example of like, oh, like, what if I choose the wrong place and they're not happy with it? Or like, oh, like, I would just rather they make the decision and I can just go along with it, you know, like, and I just always think of that. And especially reading this, like, oh my God, like, I just thought of that like so hard. Being agreeable, nice, pleasing, cute, and focused on other people is your default social setting. Bro, like, I know some of y'all are really good, you know, I don't know, if a man's being creepy to you in public or something, like, some of y'all are really good at asserting yourselves. And it's like, I mean, sometimes it's like we don't know necessarily the situation, so I feel like we just like, or like, you know, when it's just like your default to be polite, even though someone's being like creepy to you or an asshole to you or just like downright rude and disrespectful to you, it's like you still just want to be like polite. It's like, oh, I don't want to like rock the boat. It's like, are they thinking about your feelings and how you're being affected by how they're acting towards you? No. So why do I care? And that's not to say like, oh, you dumb bitch, like, why are you being polite? It's like, it's just that, like, that's so ingrained in us. It's not necessarily our fault, but like, you know. Also, the one that said setting boundaries feels like you're cutting off a part of yourself instead of doing something self-affirming. So telling someone, no, I can't do that, I can't make it, I won't be able to do that for you. Even like, I don't know, like telling a guy, like, I'm not comfortable with that. You know, it can feel just like so uncomfortable and gross and like, ew, like it would be so much easier. It would feel so much easier to just go along with this or to say yes or to go out of my way for this person when I don't really actually want to. And I read another post. I don't know if it was from the same IG account. I know it was on IG though. But it was something like, you know, how about instead, I feel like they referred to that feeling as almost like a hangover or something, like the hangover of like setting a boundary when you're just kind of like, ew, uncomfortable and just like, like I hope I didn't make them mad. Like, it's just such like an feeling. It was like, how about instead we recognize that as like a good feeling of like, okay, we did something good for ourselves. Like when I feel that, it's like, I know I stood up for myself instead of like worrying about how the other person might take it or like if they're mad at me or whatever. So let me know if you relate to any of that. But then of course, y'all know I had to go, I had to go and look this up and find some articles. Oh, this is another post by Robin Clark, though. Women who overfunction like crazy, and then there's just a paragraph, you know, doing everything, wearing all the hats, stretched thin, operating in survival mode, living beyond your like emotional capacity, doing more of your share of, you know, household labor, being everyone's support person, always saying yes, etc. You're doing exactly what our patriarchal society taught us to do. You know, and it's crazy how ingrained everything is. Like, it's crazy that like me being uncomfortable setting a boundary with this person relates to like this structure of society. Like, you know, it's like once you kind of become aware of everything, it's like you just realize like, oh, that's why. But also, like, I've always said this, and again, like, this is just like, I'm still learning. Like, it's not like I have all the answers or anything. It's just like, it's like disclaimer. But once you like realize something like that, like, oh, this is just like, or not this is just, but like, this is a result of our patriarchal society. This is like how I've been socialized to act. And like, you know, I feel bad about it because it's like, I assumedly supposed to like be able to do all these things. It's like, oh, it's not like it's a personal failure of mine or like to not be able to do all this stuff or like always say yes to everyone. It's like part of a systemic structure, a systemic issue. And then it's like, oh, it kind of like takes some of the pressure off. I know, at least for me, or same with like capitalism, you know, like, oh my God, like, why can't I do, like, I feel bad that I'm not productive all the time. Like, it seems like everyone else is able to do everything. And then it's like, oh, well, that's just like capitalism. And then it's like, you know, we're supposed to always be on the grind and always be looking for the next side hustle and always, you know, making money. Then it's like, okay, that's not like real. Like, that's like what we've been taught. So it's like, okay, it's not a personal failure. It's just like this. And that doesn't mean it's not going to affect us, but it's like when you're able to like know, it's like, oh, this is how I've been socialized. It's not like just like, why am I a failure? You know, it's like, oh, okay. Well, at least. So I found this article from Psychology Today. We love a good Psychology Today article. 5 ways to stop being the good girl and start getting stronger. So this was a really good article, and as always, I will link anything I reference down below. There have been plenty of people who saw my politeness as an opportunity to test my boundaries. Let me know if you relate. Like, especially, I just feel like so many of us can relate to this in dating. Like, have you ever just felt like you were, the perfect potential girlfriend for someone? Like, oh my God, like I'm doing everything for them. I'm like they have no reason not to date me. Like, I'm such a good example of like a GF. But it's like when you don't set boundaries, when you're always saying yes to someone, like you're gonna attract people who are going to like use that. And I'm sure you can relate, like we've all had like a friend, maybe you haven't, good for you. Like, I was just born with strong boundaries, goals. Hope if I have kids, that's how they feel. But I'm sure all of us have experienced a friend or like someone in our life, a partner, like someone we dated, who just would like always take advantage of the fact that we were like, or, it seemed like, oh, they're taking advantage of my kindness or like how nice I am or like how much I love them, whatever. When really, it's like, maybe that's true, but it's also like, I just don't have strong boundaries and I'm uncomfortable with conflict. So when something does bother me, I'm not going to speak up for it. So therefore, I'm just like always attracting these people who like are going to test my boundaries, see how far they can push me. That was like a really big realization I had, and it's just realizing like patterns in relationships and friendships and just like, oh my God, like just, that thing of like all of these people were actually the same person in the sense of like, it was the same issues. And once it's not until you break the pattern, like you realize it and break the pattern that you're like free, like, fuck. Apparently, when you're seen as a good girl, people think they can get away with anything because they know you'll continue to behave like a mature, respectful adult, regardless of what's thrown in your face. So, yeah, like, that's the thing for me. Like, I don't think anyone I've ever dated, anyone I've talked to, any friend would, like, describe me as, like, ever being crazy. I mean, unless they were literally just lying. But, like, bitch, if anything, and let me know if you relate. Like, are you, like, psychotic sometimes? And I say that, like, like, are you like, do you need to react more? This is like me at me, but also me asking y'all, like, do you relate? Like, have you like wished that you reacted more when someone disrespected you in the past? Sometimes it's like, damn, like I was way too nice. Like, and that's also been part of my thing of like realizing this shit and trying to get past and get over it, overcome it. Like, damn, I should have reacted way more in that situation. Or even like right after something happens, like, when you're taking a shower, like, reflecting like, oh, do you ever have arguments in the shower with yourself, like thinking of what you could have said? But like literally, it's like I should have reacted way harder. But no, I'm mature, I'm respectful. I just want to be an adult in the situation. It's like sometimes like you can still be responsible, mature, like polite, but like you can still set a boundary. And like it might feel, especially if it's really hard for you, it might feel like you're like being a crazy bitch, like, oh my God, I feel so mean right now, I feel so bad, but it's like you're doing the right thing. So this article, I checked in with people to make sure they were okay with the life choices I was making. I said yes to things I would never dream of doing on my own. I became an obsessive perfectionist, especially when it came to how I presented myself and what I did. Best of all, I pretended to enjoy all of this and did it with a smile on my face. Sometimes I was so deep in it that I started to mistakenly believe I did. It was terrifying and exhausting all at once. The good news, or the bad if you look at it from that angle, is that I'm not just imagining this. A study by Stanford University reported that the most desirable adjectives to describe women were compassionate, warm, cheerful, soft-spoken, and loyal. All qualities of a good girl. On the other hand, when the same participants were asked to list desirable adjectives for men, they listed independent, assertive, dominant, and decisive. Apparently, women are most desirable when they're soft and men when they're strong. So that, really ties into what I was talking about last week, just in terms of patriarchy and how patriarchy in a lot of ways is harmful to men as well, because they're presented with this image of like what the ideal man looks like. And it's like, you either have to be that or you're like just a little bitch, pussy ass, like you're gay, and then that gets into homophobia and just like everything's connected. Isn't that great? So it's like, if a man is compassionate, warm, It's like, ew, what's wrong with, like, not necessarily, I mean, some women are going to think that, but, you know, just in society or, like, to his peers, it's going to be like, ew, like, what the fuck? Like, if a man's very, like, caring and just, like, whatever. It's like, you better be an assertive ass dominant man. Otherwise, you're just, ew. You're gay. You know, if you don't know, it's like a TikTok reference. Yeah, I think it's like a Rosa. Dude, you're gay? Okay, don't include that. Fuck. Research suggests this gender bias starts early in childhood. Are we fucking surprised? Girls are more emotionally mature and better behaved. That I wonder too. Like, is that even true? Like, oh, biologically we're more emotionally mature because, you know, nature versus nurture. Anyway, hence they take their parents' please be good guidance on board from an early age. This was like amazing to me. This carries on into education, where women focus on academic excellence. This then evolves to people-pleasing in the workplace as they're trying to be perfect and avoid receiving negative feedback. Everything is fucking connected. And especially if you're like me, like, I mean, maybe you can relate even if not, but like I was like the first, I love when this becomes my own personal therapy session. I was like the firstborn, and especially when you are like the firstborn and especially the first daughter, there's just a lot of pressure on you to, you know, excel and to do well, you know, especially in school. And I feel like especially regardless of gender, like, you know, there's just always kind of a pressure on the firstborn to succeed. You know, you're the first one, like you have all these expectations on you. Your parents, you know, have never had a kid before, so they're like, you know, usually like over, like, oh my God, like, you know, the, like, not the saying, but like, oh, with the first kid, you're like doing all the tips and tricks, and then by your last kid, you're like, they'll be fine. It's like the same kind of vibe, or it is that vibe. So like, you know, I know for a lot of people, maybe they did really, and especially if you're the firstborn, but maybe not, you know, maybe you did really well in school, like early on, and then later shit got hard, or you started going through something, or like your mental health was struggling, or like you were just struggling in some way, and so your grades went down, and you were getting still good grades, like maybe you were getting B's instead of A's, but it's like so shocking, and it's like, oh my God, like you should do better than this, like there's just that pressure on you to succeed. So it's like, you know, firstborns, especially first daughters, tend to have higher rates of anxiety, and like it's like, that's great, everything is really connected, you know, because of that pressure to succeed and like people please, especially for women. And it's just like, so let me know if you relate. And again, you don't necessarily have to be the firstborn, first daughter to relate. I know a lot of us do, especially women, but let me know. You know, like people pleasing in school. Like I don't want to disappoint my parents with my grades. I don't want to disappoint my teachers. Like if I get a bad grade, my teacher's going to like call me out in front of everyone, or like, oh, if I'm not paying attention, like, you know, so much of it is ingrained. And it's like, bro, we wonder why we're like this. And it's like, look at that. That's why. Okay, so now let's get in. Okay, rant over. I mean, not really, but like now let's get into the tips and tricks on what we can actually do according to this Psychology Today article. Number 1, ask for what you want and deserve. And this goes for relationships. This goes for your career. This can go with your family and friends, you know, setting boundaries. Like, no, I won't be able to make Thanksgiving dinner this year. I am uncomfortable being around these family members. Only 7% of female MBA graduates attempted to negotiate their salary with their new employers, while 50% of men negotiated. Bitch. So if you do not get what you want, you will not get what you want and deserve if you don't ask for it. So, you know, take the chance, ask for what you need. Say no. Period. Literally, there's a period. You can't say yes to everything, and you can't help everyone. You have to put yourself, your health, and your well-being first and foremost. If you don't, there will be nothing left of you, and you will be able to help no one. Also, you know, when it comes to that discomfort of saying no to someone or setting a boundary, if the relationship is real, they're going to understand and respect that, and it's going to make your relationship stronger, because what you hope for is that, you know, if I tell someone no, or I say no, like, how about instead we do this or whatever, you like to think that therefore, and you can do it politely and nicely, like it doesn't have to be this beef. But okay, side note, what's worse than not being direct is being passive aggressive, because then it's just like it creates weird vibes, and like people can tell the vibes off, but they don't know why. And their mind is going to assume worse things than if you just said like, no, I'm tired, I won't be able to make it. No, I'm tired, or whatever. Like I can't help you with that. I can't be there for you right now. So anyway, what you hope is that, if you can if you can like just be direct with someone, your friend, family member, whatever, hopefully that shows them that they can do the same with you. And then you can just have a nice direct relationship, and no one has to be weird and passive aggressive. And if they have an issue with you or with something, they can talk to you about it, and you can do the same with them. And it just goes into that thing that like conflict isn't always bad. Not that setting a boundary is necessarily conflict every time. Sometimes it can feel that way, but it's not. But conflict can bring your relationship closer. Speak up. If someone disrespects you, don't ignore it. If somebody is being rude, point it out to them. If somebody tries to change you, tell them you're happy with who you are. If you don't speak up, nobody will hear you. If you don't put boundaries up, people will keep pushing them. What really helps me is just like, again, thinking about all the past times that I felt like, oh, people took advantage of my niceness. And it's like, bitch, I got to do this now for my past self. I don't want to keep attracting these fucking assholes. So therefore, I got to make myself uncomfortable. It's that short-term discomfort for the long-term. I'm going to have better relationships, more fulfilling, meaningful relationships, respectful relationships, etc. Treat others how you like to be treated. Transforming from a good girl to a strong girl, we love that, doesn't mean you start being rude. You will continue to be polite, considerate, and respectful, but you will no longer do so at your expense. So there you go. And I know just like some people naturally are more reserved and like, I don't know, just chill. Like, this doesn't mean like, oh, you just have to become this, like, if you're not naturally like just a loud person who's like, oh, it's so easy for me to just like say what's on my mind. I'm definitely not like that. It doesn't mean you have to become someone you're not. Become someone you're not. But it does mean like, I'm not going to let... I'm still going to speak up for myself. Like you can be both. But with that being said, if you are naturally less reserved or whatever, like perf, like hopefully this is like easier for you. So yeah, and I think as I get older and realize this kind of stuff, it's just all the more important to me to have real relationships. Like I don't want to be friends with someone who like can't say what's on their mind, or like who's always kind of passive aggressive if they have an issue with me, or like whatever. Like I want it to be real. Like, bro, like I don't want someone, and in dating too, I don't want someone who's just gonna like avoid conflict, or who just always has to make a joke when something's serious. It's like, bro, it's like I've definitely done that. I want it to be real. So it's like, to a certain extent, it's like you kind of attract what you are, but I think more specifically, because that's kind of like vibes, but like more specifically, it's like if you don't set boundaries, you're not gonna attract people who are going to respect your boundaries once you feel like, oh, I really need to set these, So let me know, is it hard for you to set boundaries? And also remember, I was going to say ladies, but anyone who's listening, no is a full sentence. I had to remind myself of this recently. You don't have to say an excuse. You can just say no. Sorry. You don't have to say sorry, but like, no. And also just like practicing. I don't know if this is like valid advice, but like, bro, like, when there's like a thirsty guy in your DMs, first of all, you don't even need to reply. But like, let's say that there's this guy that just always wants to like hang out with you, but you're always like, oh, sometime, just say no. And when you practice on like relationships that don't matter, low-key it helps when you have to say no to someone with whom you feel it does matter. I don't know if that's good advice. It's like, but it's not being rude. It's just like, just practice saying no. So let me know, what's a boundary you recently had to set? Is it easy for you? Or if that's too personal, just let me know. Is it easy for you to set boundaries or no? Do you relate to this whole good girl thing. There was another article I read on envisionwellness.co. Oh, not setting boundaries, being a good girl makes you psychologically vulnerable to relationships of the enabling, codependent, toxic, manipulative, abusive, and etc. I didn't really like this article as much because they didn't really give any tips. They were just like, how does one overcome the good girl syndrome? Well, it's easier said than done. I can't offer you 5 easy steps. It's like, well, Psychology Today was able to offer us 5 easy steps. They're not necessarily going to be easy to practice, but at least they gave us an outline. This was just like, good luck. It's work worth doing though. So, I mean, I'll still link it down below. But it was more so like defining good girl syndrome. It's like, I think at this point, I mean, if you want to read it, you can read it, but the other one was like way more fully informative. So I wanted to talk about the books that I've been reading, and with that, a topic from that. So y'all know I've been reading the Little House on the Prairie books, and this is These Happy Golden Years. Technically, there's one after this called The First 4 Years, but it's not really like a full book because that one was published. The First 4 Years was published after Laura Ingalls passed away, and I think they found it in her notes or something. I don't know if she ever intended for it to be published, but I think they were just kind of like, okay, yeah, like let's publish this just as it is. So it's a lot shorter and it's just like different vibes, kind of. So I had forgotten a lot. Basically, I don't know if you guys have read these, but I grew up, with my mom reading these to me and my sister, and I know I've talked about them here and there. You guys have probably seen me post them on IG. But basically, she was like a pioneer in the late 1800s, and her family were, going west. It was the time in the United States where the government was, wanted people to move west to settle. So it's just kind of interesting to read these from her point of view because each book is like a different phase, in her life as she's growing older and like moving west. So it's also really interesting. I guess some people wanted these to be pulled from shelves because there's like racism in these, towards Native Americans. I don't know if it was in this one or the one before, but they talk about, like minstrel shows. But I think it's interesting because it just shows, the mindset of people at that time, of the settlers. I don't know. What do y'all think? Because it's not like I'm reading this like, oh yeah, this is definitely promoting racism. It's just like showing, and it's not like heavy in these books. Like, it's not like you're reading this like, oh my God, but there's definitely moments where, they talk about the Native Americans or like whatever. And like her mom will make a comment or like, so I think to an extent, it's like, this is history. Like, this is showing like how people thought at that time. And I think to like erase that, or I mean, I guess it's different maybe if this is like considered a kid's book or something, but like if you're to erase that, it's like, okay, then how do you explain why things are the way that they are now? If we're just to like pretend like, oh yeah, people never thought that way, people were always just like so accepting of one another, it's like, then how do you explain everything? It's definitely like, it's like interesting. It's like But what do y'all think? Like, is this something worth pulling from shelves? Like, I don't know. Anyway, besides that, so these books are very nostalgic to me, which is kind of the topic I wanted to talk about. But I don't really remember like these later books. It's like By the Shores of Silver Lake, I feel like is very defining in like, okay, she's starting to kind of grow up. And after that, there's like The Long Winter, which I barely remembered anything from that as well. And then this one where she's like, starts dating her new bae and whatnot. And this one she really like becomes a woman. I didn't really remember much from those. And I think it's because like as a kid, it's like that just wasn't really interesting to me. But now it's like, I want the tea. Like, what was dating like then, like, or courting? What was it like when you grew up and like turned 18 and like she got married, I think at 18, had her first kid, or had her only child at 19. I think she had another kid after that, but he like died really soon after birth. It's kind of sad. She never had another kid. But this book is definitely my favorite one. I can now make that claim because first of all, it's just a lot more relatable to, not like so relatable, but it's just like, you know, those themes of like growing up, becoming a woman, like leaving your family, starting your own life. And this one, it's like, does anyone even care about this? But this one is right after, you know, the book The Long Winter. Blizzards were just happening all the time and they like almost died of starvation basically. But it's, you know, kind of a kids, young adults book. So she's not making it as dark as it could be, but it's just like, oh my God, like people really lived like this and they survived because her bae saved the town. But then this book is just like the year after that and just like how much better everything is and like the springtime. So I just felt like it was such a perfect book to read like while it's kind of becoming spring now. And just the way she talks about just like, I don't know, even just like the flowers as she's like walking to town or like just the nature and just like this book is just painted as such like a rosy picture. And it is like fictionalized. So I was kind of looking up the history and whatnot. Not me like loving history. It's just like so interesting. I think it's like, and I know I've said this before, but I think it's just like the realization as you get older, like, oh, all of this shit really happened to people, you know, like me, like humans, like they had like thoughts, like I'm reading this wondering like, how did that emotionally feel to go through a winter like that, like and almost die of starvation? Because like she kind of talks about it like, oh yeah, every day felt the same and like whatever, but it's like, wow, you actually went through that, like. And I know I've said this before too, but it's kind of like I first kind of realized stuff like that about my parents. Like, you know, you kind of grow up and you realize like, oh, it's not like my parents have all the answers or they know everything. Like they've been getting older as I've been getting older. They've been learning as I've been learning and trying to figure it out. Like no one really knows anything. So, and I think not that this book is like, or these books are the prime example of this, but reading that book, Lies My Teacher Told Me, you know, like the real history of the United States. It's like they just made such a good point of like, you know, so much of history, especially U.S. history, is glossed over and just like made to seem like, oh, this picture perfect, you know, like everything, like this Disneyfied, like, oh, this was the hero and like these were the bad guys. And it's just very boring in a lot of ways. But when you actually learn about like, I don't know, like just reading like people's diaries and like the real truth of stuff, like the ugly and like everything, it's like, oh my God, like this really happened to actual people. And it's like, this is why things are the way that they are today. And it like shit affects us still today. Like it's just so interesting. And again, this is a fictionalized series. So it's not like this is like them like, oh my God, yeah, this is like, wow. But just, I think the fact that it is like their everyday lives and like, it low-key wasn't that long ago, you know? Like over 100 years ago, but still, it's not like hundreds of years ago. So I'm not like necessarily recommending that you read this, but it has just been really nice, I guess. Like, especially reading this one, I just felt so cozy and like, it's just, this book is very good vibes. And she starts dating her bae and it's just like so interesting. So it's like, yeah. But then reading the real history, like, yeah, like actually like they were homeless a lot of the time and like, just like, oh, that does not sound like a good time. Like, bro, it's just so, it's like if your crops fail, like you fail. You can't just go, I mean, they had like stores and stuff, but like they just, and especially in the earlier books, relied so much on like the land around them and whatnot. Anyway, so if you've read them, let me know, but it's just been so interesting to reread them as an adult and kind of look up, you know, the real history and like just think about that, like, wow, this really not, you know, again, it's fictionalized, so it's not like this exactly happened, all of it, but just like the concept of like, it was girls like me. American Girl dolls. On a more serious note though, I've also been reading, because I've been reading these, but I've also been trying to read a serious book at the same time. This is Slouching Towards Bethlehem by Joan Didion. This is a classic, so I've heard, but it's just a collection of essays specifically about California in the 60s. And yeah, it's just so, this is also kind of like, gives me a nostalgic vibe. Just in how she talks about California, like her writing is just so good. So if you haven't read this, I would definitely recommend that you read it. And it's just kind of interesting that, you know, each kind of chapter I guess, is like a different essay. And there's like, it's kind of, yeah. So the first section is lifestyles in the Golden Land. So each essay is just about, you know, different people or like different things that happened in California. And then I'm currently on section 2, which is personals. So it's just kind of stuff that's happened to her. The last one I read was like, oh no. Yeah. Well, like she wrote one about keeping a notebook and just like how she always had a notebook as a kid and just like kind of explained. It was pretty relatable. And then the last one, 7 Places of the Mind. So it's just like, I don't know, reading this too, it was, oh, like just so perfect to read for this time of year, especially since I'm in California, not to flex on, but like just how she's describing, you know, the scenes and just like, especially in the 60s, I don't know, like I'm just imagining almost like this Lana Del Rey music video, like very chic, but like kind of just like that California vibe, you know? I just love like, oh my God, it's just so good. So if you guys haven't read it, I would recommend, but I can't wait to read more of her books. And what was another one I have? I forget. She has like other books I know about, specifically like LA, and just like, it's just so fascinating to read. And just like the style of writing, like, I don't want to say it's like romantic, but it's just like, it's just this very specific vibe that is really enjoyable to read. And again, it's almost like I'm in like a Lana Del Rey music video, like, and I say that like in the best way, like her older videos, you know, like Born to Die era, like that's what I'm like imagining. I don't know if that's like way off base maybe, but like it's just, you know, that 60s California vibe. Anyway, so that's what I'm currently reading. Follow me on Goodreads if you're not. But yeah, I also really want to read another Bell Hooks book as well as another Angela Davis book. I want to get back in my feminism literature bag. Yeah, so one thing at a time, you know, but yeah, follow me on Goodreads, and I'm always like posting which books I'm reading on my story as well. So check it out and let me know what you're currently reading down below. Okay, last topic, y'all, and this is kind of a lot of topics in one. Astrology, spring, Virgo full moon. It's almost Aries season. Pisces season is over. Let me know, how was your Pisces season? Like I said at the beginning of this episode, mine was, it wasn't terrible, but it was definitely emotional. I cried a lot. I don't cry like all the time, but I'm like, if I need to cry, I'll cry, you know, but I just feel like I was crying a lot during Pisces season. But with Aries season, you know, on the way, it is the start of the new astrological year. And I was watching an Alina Alive video, which if you don't know, she's a YouTuber. She has astrology journals, not the one that I have. I have the Magic of I one. But I just love her full moon and new moon videos specifically because she always has journal prompts. But she was talking about how, you know, this just like basically how I naturally already feel. Like a lot of us aren't usually inspired in the dead of winter to make resolutions and to have this like fresh outlook on life and like, oh my God, like the traditional like, January 1st, New Year's traditional, you know, but this like the start of the astrological calendar when it's like getting to be spring and it's like Aries season and we have that fiery energy kind of like pushing us forward. Like that's such a great time to set resolutions, intentions, start something new, or if you did make goals or resolutions at the beginning of the year, to kind of refresh yourself on those, see if they're still in alignment, check in with yourself, like, am I on track? Do I need to edit this goal? Whatever. So I found an article on Refinery 29 about bringing out your inner Aries. Aries season always seems to bring out the fire in all of us. The weather is turning warmer. There's a special electricity in the air as the new astrological begins. It's the astrological new year, which means it's time to make a fresh start in our lives. This season, our drive and determination will skyrocket and we'll feel as though we can do anything we set our minds to. The fiery energy will put wind in our sails and motivate us to move forward with our visions. Get creative, make a to-do list, ask for that promotion. Things will be happening, so you better be prepared for them. I would like to think of this as like the ovulation week of the year, you know? Let me know if you relate, but if you have a period, I just know that the ovulation week, like the week where you're fertile, Bitch, I feel like I can do anything. Like, I wish I could just feel like that all the time. You know, we must go through seasons. It's really good to have, you know, our more hormonal, emotional times as well, because we need that. We need to reflect. We need time to go inwards and like recoup and whatever. Anyway, it's not what this is about. But I want to do a podcast about that though. And like being in tune with your body and your cycles, because like your body tells you so much. And like, anyway, but this, you know, ovulation week, it's just like I'm just like not annoyed by it. I mean, I say by anything, but you know, I'm in a good mood. I feel motivated. I feel like, especially when I have a caffeine on ovulation week, it like usually hits exactly how I want it to, like gives me that energy and like the focus without like the jitters or the anxiety. Like, it's just like, yes. I personally am almost on that week. So lucky me, starting Aries season off on a good note. But if you're not, you know, that's fine. We have a whole month. Yeah, the sun is right at home in Aries. This means that there's a renewal of solar energy in all of us, regardless of our sun sign. It's an exciting time, one that's strongly oriented towards self-discovery. Buckle up. While Pisces season put us more in tune with those around us, Aries season is all about being in tune with ourselves. When the sun moves from Pisces into Aries, we come back to what our own desires and needs are and how to go about meeting them. Aries is a strong, bold sign, and in true Aries fashion, this season is pushing us to be confident and to chase our goals. A little selfishness can come in handy when going after our dreams. Don't be a people pleaser or a good girl this Aries season. And I mean, if you're like, oh, good girl versus bad girl, like it's not about being a good girl, like, oh, staying in the house and not going to the club, but it's just like, what did they say? Be a strong girl. Say no. Tell somebody to fuck off. Okay. At its best, Aries energy is warm, fun, and the characteristic of a true leader. Excuse me, let's not step on Leo's toes. This Aries season is also a great time for breathing fresh air into our romantic partnerships. The Sun and Venus have been traveling together, and on March 26th, they finally form a conjunction, which is set to bestow gifts within relationships. Ooh. The full moon will also, you know, happen in Libra, which is the opposite of Aries. And it's the most relationship-oriented sign of all because it's about, you know, partnership and like that. It's like the scales. So it's like, you know, and their planet is Venus. So be aware of how we feel and expect to spend some time working through a situation that may crop up within a close relationship. Weighing our options will always be necessary. Your confidence will likely be inspired over the next month, even if you're normally a shy or retiring person. Isn't this so funny? Like, I didn't even mean to like talk about the good girl thing and then like, oh yeah, but astrologically speaking, this is a great time to practice it because we'll be confident and have this fiery energy. Like, and it just so happened to be that way. Like, I am literally just now realizing that. So if this isn't a sign, I don't know what is. Okay, so I'll link that article down below. I love their astrology articles. Like I always say, because they're like cute and trendy, but they also have good information. Like, some astrology articles are very dense and like, but these are like fun without being like too just like surface level, I feel. So I'll link that down below as well. But yeah, like we are ready to take action. We have fired up vibes. It's a fresh start, bitch. Like, it's spring. Let's do a little ritual. Also, there's a Virgo full moon, the 18th, which is, if you're listening to the day I posted it, Thursday the 17th, it's the day after. And I was watching Alina Alive's video on that. It's a worm moon, which sounds LOL, but she was explaining that means that like it's because the soil of the earth has warmed up, so there's like little worms, you know, what'd she say? Like just more in the soil or sprouting up from the soil because the soil's like ready for spring. So I was like, ew, a worm moon, like, ugh. But then I was like, oh my God, that's actually so chic. Not chic, but just like, and, you know, just being in tune, like, that's the cool thing about astrology is that it really does, like, put you so much in tune with nature and, like, the world around us and therefore with ourselves, you know, because we are essentially part of nature. So I would recommend watching her video for those Virgo full moon rituals and different things that you can do. She said she was talking about things you can do for each of the elements. So, like, something you can do for fire, earth, water, and air. She said one of the earth things, since it is a Virgo full moon, an earth sign, was the crystal amethyst, because, and I'm not even super into crystals like that. I feel like I have a lot of them, but I'm not like always doing like a crystal ritual or anything. But because this is the birthstone of Pisces, which is, we're still in Pisces season as of recording this, this is like a good crystal to have during this time. So she said, for fire, you could write down your intentions or like stuff you want to release, not your intentions, write down stuff you want to release and burn it safely, of course. And then she also had some journal prompts. So I would really recommend watching her videos. Again, I will link her down below. But yeah, full moon, as always, is a great time to reflect on the past month, to let things go, release, the air, the world, the society is full of energy because it's a full moon. So it's a good time to have those realizations. You may have realizations without wanting them, but just being able to let stuff go, taking a bath. I love taking a full moon bath. I just love taking a bath, period. So she's like, because it's in Virgo, which is a very structured sign, is there any structure or routine? Me just like reading the journal prompts anyway. Is there any structure or routine to your spiritual practice? What are you ready to release? What are you most proud of what are you most proud of yourself for releasing or doing over this past winter? What challenges came up for you, etc., things like that. So I would definitely recommend journaling about this. If not, maybe just thinking about it, and kind of just doing some like reflection as you're taking your hot girl walk, or maybe not while you're meditating. We're supposed to clear our minds during that, but take some time. So I'm just really excited. I just feel like spring is it's bringing already so much new energy, and it's like, bitch, we needed the fresh air. No, not even literally and in vibes. Anyway, I would love to hear your thoughts on anything we discussed down below. Thank you so much for watching and listening. Let me know what you want me to discuss next week. Let me know if you're an Aries. And I will talk to you guys in the next episode. New episodes every Thursday, available on all platforms. Love you guys. Bye, everyone.